Nanomed trials successful. Clinical trials for new nanomedicines developed by Vitadyne Labs have delivered outstanding results. Observers from the Interstellar Health Organization summarized. Our teams carefully monitored the use of Vitadyne nanomeds on patients for whom conventional treatments were unsuitable. In all cases, the nanomedicines eliminated malignant cells, boosted immune systems and repaired damaged tissue. There is no doubt that this product represents a breakthrough in nanomedicine, with enormous healthcare potential. Professor Katrian Rook, owner of Vitadyne Labs, told the media. It's highly gratifying to have our work validated in this way. I'm grateful to the IHO for its diligence, and I look forward to introducing our nanomedicines to the galaxy. Week in Review. Here are this week's major stories. Disgraced politician Juanita Bishop has called for a forthcoming book about the Far God sect to be banned. In a statement, Bishop described the book's authors as alien sympathizers, and accused them of creating pro-Thargoid propaganda. Gethin Okonkwo, one of the book's writers, suggested that Bishop's desire to halt publication was an attempt to prevent a criminal investigation into her own activities. A range of new asteroid mining equipment is expected to trigger an increase in the availability of ores and minerals. A spokesperson for the Industrial Mining Guild said the new tools would prompt a surge in private mining activity. In other news, Princess Aisling Duval has publicly rejected the isolationist group Nova Imperium and its figurehead, Hadrian Duval. Senator Zemlina Torval publicly voiced agreement with Princess Duval, but Senator Paul Vespasian said that many senators were willing to recognize Hadrian Duval as emperor-in-waiting. In other news, clinical trials for nanomedicines developed by Vitadyne Labs have delivered outstanding results. Observers from the Interstellar Health Organization said that the nanomedicines eliminated malignant cells, boosted immune systems and repaired damaged tissue, and said that the product represented a genuine breakthrough. Imperial Senator Simone Leatrix has announced plans for a week of revelry at her palatial residence on Capitol, in the Achenar system. In a statement, the senator said she intended to celebrate the end of the year with a sumptuous party at her mountaintop retreat, which would be specially renovated for the occasion. In support of the event, the Semius Imperial Society has placed an open order for various commodities. Finally, the conflict between two opposing factions in the Wally Bay system has ended. The fleets of both Wally Bay Technical and the Wally Bay Constitution Party were significantly reduced in a prolonged series of battles. The leaders of both organizations issued a joint statement, confirming that for humanitarian reasons they would bring hostilities to an end. And those are the main stories this week. Aisling Duval rejects Nova Imperium. Princess Aisling Duval has publicly rejected the isolationist group Nova Imperium and its figurehead, Hadrian Duval. These extremists cause only division. Hadrian may well be the grandson of Hengist Duval, but that hardly makes him suited to the throne. Arisa has been silent for too long. She must act quickly to resolve this volatile situation. Senator Zemlina Torval responded, "Much to my surprise, I find myself in agreement with Princess Duval. The notion of an independent pilot becoming ruler of the Empire is preposterous. I am confident that the Emperor will respond accordingly." Despite this united front, Senator Paul Vespasian stated, "Many senators are willing to recognize Hadrian Duval as emperor-in-waiting. Nova Imperium is now a legitimate political movement with several million supporters. The only way the Empire will survive is by accepting the Imperator's proposals." Supplies needed for Imperial festivities. Imperial Senator Simone Leatrix has announced plans for a week of revelry at her palatial residence on Capitol, in the Achenar system. The senator told the media, "We Imperials value the finer things, even during times of political upset. So I intend to celebrate the end of the year with a sumptuous party at my mountaintop retreat, which will be specially renovated for the occasion. To feed the hundreds of high-profile guests and decorate the senator's residence, Senator Leatrix has asked the Semius Imperial Society to organize deliveries of food and newly refined jewels to Mackenzie Relay and the Semius system. The initiatives begin on the 20th of December 3304 and will run for 1 week. If either initiative meets its targets earlier than planned, the campaign will end immediately. Battle ceases in Wally Bay system. The conflict between two opposing factions in the Wally Bay system has ended. The fleets of both the Wally Bay Technical and the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party were significantly reduced in a prolonged series of battles. The leaders of both organizations issued a joint statement. We recognize that our military leaders overreacted to accusations made by both parties. For humanitarian reasons, we have agreed to bring hostilities to an end. But we will honor the commitment made by independent pilots on both sides, who are now authorized to collect their rewards from the Wally Bay system. New mining tools released. A range of new asteroid mining equipment is expected to trigger an increase in the availability of ores and minerals. A spokesperson for the Industrial Mining Guild discussed the new tools at an industry symposium. Using mining lasers to remove surface deposits from asteroids can be difficult. The new abrasion blaster fires projectiles that break them free more easily. For deeper deposits, subsurface displacement missiles can penetrate the rock and then be detonated remotely, releasing larger chunks of material. Finally, there is now a way to access valuable resources deep within certain rare bodies. Seismic charges, when carefully positioned, can crack an asteroid open and free the minerals at its core. Combined with upgrades to existing tools, such as scanners and prospector limpets, we are confident that these new tools will result in a surge in private mining activity. Call to ban Far God book. Disgraced politician Juanita Bishop has called for a forthcoming book about the Far God sect to be banned. The authors, Aliana Vanderconquo, are known alien sympathizers. One was arrested as a suspected traitor and the other has admitted to being a Far God cultist. What they're writing is nothing more than pro-Thargoid propaganda. It is an insult to all the brave souls who died trying to keep us safe. The authorities need to prevent this book from contaminating innocent people with its repulsive ideas. Journalist Gethin Okonkwo, who spent months undercover in the Far God sect, responded. The book includes first-hand accounts of worshippers being attacked by Bishop's followers. Her desperation to halt its publication is nothing more than an attempt to prevent a criminal investigation into her activities. Positive response to Vitadyne Nanomeds. The Interstellar Health Organization, IHO, has delivered a preliminary report on the nanomedicines recently developed by Vitadyne Labs. The summary stated, nanomedicine is a carefully regulated branch of medical science, with little scope for public application, but Vitadyne's nanomeds are more sophisticated and reliable than any existing product. Furthermore, Vitadyne's data regarding healing, disease treatment and extension of longevity has been verified. Having confirmed the product's effectiveness, IHO teams are now conducting independent tests with patients. Media outlet Vox Galactica published this viewpoint from healthcare analyst Dr. Himari Gray. The pharmaceutical industry is astonished that a small company like Vitadyne could produce something so advanced. Professor Catriona Rook's credentials are impeccable, of course, but this is a work of genius. These nanomeds could be the most exciting thing in medicine for decades. Week in Review. Here are this week's major stories. A new networked system named the Codex has been released to the galactic community. The Codex is a joint initiative from the Pilots Federation and Universal Cartographics, which announced that the system had been automatically uploaded to all vessels registered with the Pilots Federation. 2 new ships marketed towards independent pilots have been released. The Mamba, from Zorgon Peterson, is reputedly one of the fastest ships in production, while the Crate Phantom, manufactured by Falcon de Lacy, has been envisaged as a multi-role vessel. Hadrian Augustus Duval, the long-lost grandson of Emperor Hengist Duval, has broadcast a message to the Empire in which he emphasized his humble background and stressed that he had lived an ordinary life. He concluded with the words, "I've seen how diminished the Empire has become, and I know that new leadership is sorely needed." Meanwhile, the Interstellar Health Organization has delivered a preliminary report on the nanomedicines recently developed by Vitadyne Labs. The report states that Vitadyne's nanomeds are more sophisticated and reliable than any existing product, and that Vitadyne's data regarding healing, disease treatment and extension of longevity has been verified. In other news, conflict has erupted between 2 factions in the Wally Bay system. Hostilities were triggered after the Wally Bay Technical claimed to have discovered stolen food shipments aboard their rivals' transport vessels. This was denied in an official response by traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party. military leaders from both factions have issued calls to independent combat pilots, offering rewards for their support. Finally, an initiative to deliver rare commodities to an esoteric cult in the Zlotus system has concluded. Barnabas Cole, leader of the Children of Tothos, submitted a handwritten message to the media that read, "By helping us, you free yourselves. You will feel the light of our testament fill you, just as it fills the heavens." And those are the main stories this week. Children of Tothos initiative concludes. An initiative to deliver rare commodities to an esoteric cult in the Zlotus system has concluded. Independent traders provided Agonai Prush, Motrono Experience Jelly, and Onion Head for a ceremony to be performed by the Children of Tothos. Other pilots protected the rare goods from being taken by pirates. Barnabas Cole, leader of the Children of Tothos, gave another handwritten message to the media. "By helping us, you free yourselves. You will feel the light of our testament fill you, just as it fills the heavens." The initiative was organized by Zloty Federal Holdings, which allegedly counts some high-ranking officials as cult members. Contributing pilots can now collect their rewards from the Slain Valhard settlement in the Zlotus system. Battle commences in Wally Bay system. Conflict has erupted between two opposing factions in the Wally Bay system. Hostilities were triggered after Wally Bay Technical claimed to have discovered stolen food shipments aboard their rivals' transport vessels. The faction spokesperson said, "Robbing innocent people of vital supplies is nothing less than an act of war, and we are treating it as such." This was denied in an official response by the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party. This outrageous accusation is intended to drive off our trade partners and damage our economy. We won't tolerate such slander. Military leaders from both Wally Bay Technical and the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party have issued calls to independent combat pilots, offering rewards for their support. The two factions have set out week-long operations that will begin on the 13th of December 3304. Hadrian Deval addresses the Empire. Hadrian Augustus Deval, the long-lost grandson of Emperor Hengist Deval, has broadcast a message to the Empire. "I am no wealthy senator from an entitled family, but someone who has lived an ordinary life. Someone who understands the hardships faced by many imperial citizens. As Hadrian Jansen, I was a poor child with no family other than my father. Together we scraped a living as independent traders. He never spoke of his past, not even when he died 2 years ago. That was when I inherited his ship and became a commander myself. When Imperator Mordanticus informed me of my heritage, I knew I had to accept my identity as a Deval. I've seen how diminished
System scan complete.
the Empire has become, and I know that new leadership is sorely needed. I ask you to honor the legacy of the Deval bloodline. With Nova Imperium, let's save the Empire we love." Mamba and Crate Phantom were released. Two new ships marketed towards independent pilots, the Mamba and the Crate Phantom, have just hit the market. Zorgon Peterson issued the following press release for its new vessel. "If it's speed and firepower you want, the Mamba is for you. Based on a racing prototype, it's the fastest commercially available starship, and it sports enough hard points for a range of devastating weaponry. Whether you're leaving competitors in the dust, or running rings around those pesky Thargoids, think Mamba." Falcon DeLacy also released a statement for its latest design. The Crate Phantom offers true multi-role capability, allowing it to be customized for combat, mining, or trading. And for explorers, its impressive jump range means you really can reach out to the stars. This is a ship that can handle it all. Introducing the Codex. A new network database system named the Codex has been released to the galactic community. The Codex is a joint initiative from the Pilots Federation and Universal Cartographics, which issued the following joint statement. "We are pleased to announce that the Codex has been automatically uploaded to the onboard systems of all vessels registered with the Pilots Federation. The Commander section of the Codex collates all ship data, including the pilot's personal achievements, while the knowledge base contains information on the galaxy's most prominent organizations and individuals. The Discoveries section is designed to support deep space exploration. As well as cataloging stellar bodies and other phenomena, it also logs confirmed and unconfirmed findings from..."
The Empire. Introduction. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason. how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. Shakespeare, Hamlet.
When our ancestors departed Earth, they asked themselves, which of our achievements represents the best of humanity, that we may bring it with us to illumine the darkness? The Federation, embroiled in a world of contracts and petty bickering, chose their constitution.
Frameshift drive charging.
They placed their trust not in man himself, but in an imperfect work of man. But my ancestor, your first Emperor, was wiser. He knew that the best achievement of humanity was humanity itself. There was more wisdom in the single nucleotide of his noble DNA than in all the Federation's written texts. That same wisdom
Fuel scooping.
still guides us now. We need no dusty documents to assert our right. We are human, born to rule. And the universe awaits.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
It's the firm hand of our governance.
Emperor Trascan Duval II, undelivered draft speech written immediately before his sudden and unexplained death. The Empire, while younger than the Federation, is easily the equal of its historic rival in terms of scale and resources. The key social distinction between the two powers is that slavery in the Empire is legal, a fact that has remained a source of controversy since its inception, both within the Empire and without. Some observers have pointed out, however, that conditions for those at the
System scan complete.
lowest levels of federal society are far worse than those experienced by imperial slaves. The popular image of the Empire is one of opulence, but while pomp and pageantry may be the norm in the core imperial systems, elsewhere in imperial space, one can find myriad examples of deprivation and squalor.
Frameshift drive charging.
Indeed, the Empire encompasses many striking contrasts. Sophisticated technology exists alongside an ancient Roman system of government, and the affluence of the core worlds depends on
Ready to engage.
often unwritten. Slave labor in the wretched outer colonies. Ruthless industrial efficiency and low taxation has made the Empire rich and mighty. The hierarchy of imperial society is rigid, but a citizen can always rise through the ranks if he or she becomes wealthy enough and makes the right connections.
Fuel scooping.
Even a slave could, in theory, become a senator.
Fuel scooping complete.
We can review. Here are this week's major stories. Introducing the Codex. A new network database system named the Codex has been released to the galactic community. The Codex is a joint initiative from the Pilots Federation.
The Empire. History. The Achenar colony was founded. In the mid-23rd century, wealthy entrepreneur Marlene Duval was so frustrated with the federal government that she founded an independent colony of her own in the Achenar system, chosen for its remoteness. When Marlene was killed shortly afterwards in a flyer accident, her brother Henson Duval took over as ruler.
System scan complete.
Henson Duval, the Emperor. Duval immediately abolished the fledgling democracy that Marlene had set up, and in its place, he established a system modeled on ancient Rome. He was now Emperor, and his closest allies were his senators. Any colonists who might have objected were forced into silent compliance with Duval's vision. Such were his wealth and power. It was also widely believed that Marlene Duval, like Remus in ancient Rome, had been killed by her own brother. Nobody dared to speak out. The Mudlark extinction. The colonists were aware that the planet they had settled, Achenar 6D, had indigenous life. But at first, it wasn't appreciated that this included a sentient species, nicknamed the Mudlarks after they were observed digging through riverbank mud in search of food. Although the Mudlarks were at a pre-agricultural
Frameshift drive charging.
stage of development, they appear to have developed the beginnings of language. They also created crude forms in molded clay, with no obvious practical purpose, possibly indicating a nascent
Ready to engage.
system.
4, 3, 2,
Culture. The Mudlarks proved fatally vulnerable to the bacteria carried by the colonists, and within a few decades of the colony's founding, the species was extinct. Rumors subsequently emerged that Henson Duval had purposefully removed all traces of the Mudlarks, partly in fear of federal reprisal, and partly to ensure that his development plans would not be hindered by ecological constraints. The Federation attempted to reclaim.
fuel scooping.
When the federal government heard rumors that Duval's colony had recklessly caused the destruction of a sentient indigenous species,
Fuel scooping complete.
they decided on military intervention. The Imperial ships beat back the federal attackers, who were unable to establish a beachhead among the airless outer worlds, and struggled to maintain supply lines so far from Earth. The Federal forces eventually fell back and entrenched in the Beta Hydri system. Skirmishes with Imperial ships continued for the next 50 years, but these were unable to prevent Duval from expanding the Empire to many other worlds. The Age of Expansion. After hostilities with the Federation ceased, the Empire entered a century of growth, annexing many new systems and persuading others to join. It spent the following 2 centuries consolidating its new territory, appointing colonial administrators from among the noble houses of Achenar.
System scan complete.
The Empire. Society. An ancient Roman model. The Empire works on a clean system. Society is divided into tiers. Emperor, senators,
Frameshift drive charging.
patrons, clients, and then citizens, with slaves below these. Groups of patrons pledge their support to a given senator, offering military service, tax revenue,
Ready to engage.
the right to wield the patrons' votes in the Senate on their behalf. In return, the patrons are granted a measure of protection and material security, as
4, 3, 2,
well as having their interests represented in the Imperial Senate. Senators are responsible for deciding tax rates and welfare systems for their patrons, meaning that the lower a given senator's tax rates, the more patrons he is likely to attract. This is far from being a patron's only concern, however. Loyalty over time, ideological
fuel scooping.
compatibility, family connections, and discreet private deals can all play a part in deciding which senator to ban.
Fuel scooping complete.
The system extends downward through the tiers in a similar fashion, with clients pledging themselves to given patrons, and citizens pledging themselves to given clients. The votes held by the patrons actually comprise the total votes of all the clients pledged to them. Similarly, The votes held by those clients comprise the total votes of their pledged citizens. Patrons are therefore capable of investing variable degrees of power in their chosen senators, with the result that some senators are more powerful than others. Senators are responsible for those below them, meaning that everyone has a form of social security, at least in theory. Indeed, many senators take pride in the security they offer their citizens. Some have even been known to drain material wealth from small independent worlds and pump it back into the capital economy, allowing them to reduce citizens' taxes and giving their own popularity a considerable boost. Patrons are free to withdraw their patronage from their chosen senator, placing the onus on the senator to represent them satisfactorily or face a loss of voting power. Rigid stratification. The division between social classes is formal, unambiguous, and strict. But there is a clear path to advancement.
System scan complete.
A person can pay a fee and petition for admittance to the rank above. In this way, slaves can become citizens too. The law is not the same for all. Senators have a responsibility to enforce the law, and they must obey the emperor's decree, but are otherwise above the law. A senator can even carry out executions personally with little, if any, fear of consequence.
Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage. 3, 2, 1.
Empire. Military. The Imperial Navy. Maintaining a modernized navy has always been a top priority for the Empire. The ever-present threat posed by the Federation has driven previous masters to empty the coffers again and again for fear of being outstripped in the arms race. More recently,
Fuel scooping.
funding has come from wealthy individual senators, many of whom are all too eager to gain influence within the Navy. Indeed, it has been claimed that devastating
Fuel scooping complete.
planetary mining has been carried out in order to further this cause. The Fasisi system is arguably the most significant Imperial naval base. Many officers are housed on the world of Topaz, while Peter's Wreck is home to the training centers. As well as the battle fleets, the Imperial Navy maintains a subdivision dedicated to exploring the fringes of known space. The Emperor's Own. Genetic engineering is not officially tolerated in the Empire, but it does sometimes take place. One notable example is the Emperor's Own, a group of genetically engineered super soldiers deployed during the shock invasion of Mansfield Colony in the Leadler system in 2959. They proved brutally efficient, overrunning the Federal defenses in a mere 2 hours and inflicting a rare defeat upon a Federal regiment.
System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage.
The Empire, culture and values.
4, 3, 2.
The human body represents perfection. This belief, once held with near religious intensity, still forms the bedrock of the Empire's culture and morals. Genetic modification is frowned upon, but a degree of genetic correction is known to take place, supposedly
Fuel skipping.
to correct defects such as vulnerability to certain diseases. The belief in the sanctity of the human body originates with the first emperor,
Fuel skipping complete.
Duval. While he did not claim to be literally descended from the gods, in the manner of Roman emperors of old, he declared that his own image was the paradigm to which others ought to aspire. Households across the empire were required to display a statue or bust of the emperor in a place of honor. Imperial citizens are therefore expected to shun habits that corrupt or defile the human body, such as excessive indulgence in narcotics. The ownership of slaves, by contrast, is tolerated in the same way that the ownership of any beautiful work of art is tolerated. Mistreatment of slaves is thus akin to vandalism. Keeping one's own body in peak condition and adorning it with jewels and expensive clothes is not vanity, but duty. And owning well-treated slaves is also considered a sign of good character. The Emperor's word is supreme. The Emperor's successor is decided by the Senate, although the Duval dynasty has such a strong power base that the imperial throne has only ever been occupied by members of that bloodline. For generations, genetic selection ensured that the Emperor's heir would be male, and the current ruler, Arissa Lavinie Duval, is the first woman to hold the throne. Marlene Duval is sometimes described as the Empire's first female ruler, but this is incorrect. The colony she founded was a democracy. Honor is everything. The value placed on honor is a constant throughout all tiers of imperial society. Honor can be lost through various means, including leaving debts unpaid, failing to respect a superior or provide for a dependent, breaking a solemn vow, conducting combat with cowardly weapons such as nerve gas, and defiling one's own body. Slavery is acceptable, but slaves must be well treated. In the Empire, it is not uncommon for the poor and disenfranchised to sign up for a period of military service in exchange for a small sum of money. A similar logic applies to imperial slavery, to the extent that someone might sell themselves into slavery to clear a debt and restore their honor. Selling oneself into slavery is a straightforward legal process and results in a guaranteed sum of money for one's family, so it is a popular option for the desperate. In practice,
System scan complete.
however, many find that it takes much longer than expected to clear their debts. People are also forced into slavery against their will. Sometimes a senator will sentence a person of lower rank to be stripped of citizenship and designated as a slave. But it is more common to impose a fine of such magnitude that the citizen has no recourse but to sell his or herself into slavery. Slaves may also be taken prisoner following a conflict, abducted from their home, or even captured in a hijacking. While trading slaves is lawful everywhere in the Empire, except on Emerald, taking new slaves outside of wartime is illegal without the blessing of a senator.
Surface scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage. 3, 2,
Diplomatic relations. The Federation. Resentment of the Federation runs deep in the Empire. The superpower is remembered as an oppressive, interfering force that hypocritically avoids inflicting the slightest harm on non-human life.
fuel scooping.
Thinks nothing of forcibly imposing its values on its fellow humans, and lacking the freedoms and social customs that the Empire values so dearly.
Fuel scooping complete.
While open hostility has frequently been the case in the past, the current situation is one of grudging coexistence, beneath which
System scan complete. System
mistrust
scan
simmers.
complete.
Despite this antipathy, the Empire cooperated with the Federation in a series of joint initiatives against the Thargoids in the early 3300s. The Alliance. When the Alliance was founded in 3230, following a bitter conflict with the
Frameshift drive charging.
Empire and the Federation, multiple systems defected to it from both superpowers. To the surprise of many, the Empire took very little further retributive action, partly because of the ill health of the Emperor. due to a belief that the defecting systems would return to their natural home sooner or later. The Empire's current attitude to the Alliance is one of studied control. To recognize it as a threat would be too much like showing respect. Level politics. Unsurprisingly, for a society so concerned with rank and influence, the Empire contains a multitude of feuding powers.
Fuel scooping complete.
In particular, there is a good deal of bad blood between the various noble houses, whose values range from hardcore traditionalist to staunch reformist. The Imperial Senate is no longer as overshadowed by the Emperor as it once was, and has gained sufficient strength to act as a counterbalance to the Emperor's political will. The individual character of the Emperor still determines the Empire's overall direction, however, and the suggestion that the Empire should evolve out of its old ways has proven deeply divisive.
System scan complete.
The Federation. Introduction. For I dip
Frameshift drive charging.
into the future, far as human eye could see, saw the vision of the world and all the wonder that would be. Saw the heavens fill with commerce, argosies,
Ready to engage. 4, 3, 2.
of magic sails, pilots of the purple twilight, dropping down with costly bales, till the war drum throbbed no longer, and the battle flags were furled in the Parliament of Man, the Federation of the World. Alfred Lord Tennyson, Locksley Hall, 1835.
Fuel scooping.
How then to attempt the impossible task of summing up the Federation? We
Fuel scooping complete.
are the ones who draw the lines. Our forefathers, who lived through the bitter anguish of global wars, drew a line under them and declared, no more. We enshrined the rights of all citizens in our Constitution, underlined them, and signed. We plotted the lines that first linked the star systems, bringing humanity to the shores of new worlds, opening the way to interstellar trade. And when humanity itself, in the exuberance of youth, threatened the delicate balance of alien life, again we drew a line. Thus far let us lawfully tread, and no further.
Isaac Gellan, Federation President. Inaugural speech, 2862. The Federation is the oldest of the galaxy's three superpowers, a vast geopolitical entity reaching out from the core system of Sol and encompassing a broad socio-economic spectrum. Among the myriad federal star systems, one can find extraordinary wealth, crushing poverty, and everything in between.
System scan complete.
Contrast with the Empire, which offers a social safety net in the form of state-sanctioned slavery, the poorest members of federal society have no safeguards and no way out. For them, life on the graffiti-stained streets is inescapable, and the gulf between their lives and those of the super-rich could not be more insurmountable. At its best, the Federation embodies the values of its founding nations: democracy, industry, and liberty. But federal
Frameshift drive charging.
society can also be competitive and unforgiving. Corporations wield too much power, politicians are often corrupt, and a sink or swim ethos prevails.
3, 2, fuel scoping. Fuel scoping complete.
The Thargoids. Human Thargoid contact. The Thargoids are a non-human race with a history of hostility towards humanity. The first recorded encounter with a Thargoid ship took place in 2849, although earlier undocumented encounters are believed to have taken place. In the years that followed, contact with lone Thargoid vessels was intermittently reported. Humanity clashed with the Thargoids in the 32nd century, but details of the conflict remained scarce for many years, and it proved difficult to differentiate authentic accounts of Thargoid encounters from the sensationalist media stories of the time. The discovery of abandoned intergalactic Naval Reserve arm bases in 3303 did much to dispel the fog, however. The INRA, a joint federal imperial initiative established in 3193, was responsible for researching the Thargoids and developing technologies to counter their aggression. But the
System scan complete.
organization's lack of accountability meant that the details of its research did not come to light until years
Frameshift drive charging.
after its dissolution. Almost all of the reliable data concerning the Thargoids has been sourced from INRA facilities. This data, originally deemed highly confidential, was declassified in 33.
3, 2,
Following a resolution from the federal government and an imperial decree. Some controversy over the backing and funding of the INRA remains, however. The Thargoids. Society. The INRA discovered that Thargoid society is organized into hives, with most Thargoids falling into three categories: queens, princesses, and drones. Queens function as reproducers, while drones serve to maintain a favorable environment for the rest of the hive. Thargoid hives can be vast, though it may be that some of the larger observed groups are in fact multiple overlapping hives. Ultimately, little is known for sure. The average Thargoid queen is at least as intelligent as a human being, while the typical drone possesses a more
System scan complete.
rudimentary level of intelligence. Existing evidence suggests that queens have extremely long lifespans,
Frameshift drive charging.
living for hundreds or even thousands of years. The variable size of queens' neurocraniums suggests this might be an indicator of age. Little is known about the precise nature of Thargoid
Ready to engage.
reproduction, but it is likely that queens can reproduce both sexually with other queens and asexually. It is thought that the latter method produces drones, while the former produces a new queen. Analysis of Thargoid specimens led some INRA researchers to believe that a new queen, or princess, becomes a full queen only once it is produced on its own. Significantly, queens are believed to be single-sex. The Thargoids' ability to reproduce asexually
Fuel scooping.
means that their populations can expand incredibly quickly, but it is thought that they deliberately restrict the size of the populace so as to not to deplete all available resources. There is evidence to suggest that this is sometimes achieved
Fuel scoop disengaged.
by culling older drones. INRA testing indicated the queens perceived drones as entirely
Fuel scooping.
expendable, presumably due to the ease with which they can be replaced. Indeed, a Thargoid queen appears to give no more thought to the loss of a drone than a human would an eyelash.
Fuel scooping complete. scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage.
The Thargoids. Communication. The belief that Thargoids were capable of some form of extrasensory communication was often cited in the early years of human-Thargoid interaction. But prior to the discovery of INRA records, it was not fully understood. Professor Yuri Ansel of the INRA theorized that a Thargoid queen can communicate with the drones in its hive via a spread-spectrum electronic signal, and can use this signal to control the drones, and even to share their sensory input. Studies of battlefield footage certainly suggest some kind of near-instantaneous communication among Thargoids.
Fuel scooping complete.
And the presence of low-level radio noise in areas occupied by Thargoids indicates that they do indeed communicate via short-range electronic signals. Professor Anslow went on to claim that a queen could effectively see and hear through its drones, but her contemporaries were skeptical, dismissing the assertion as baseless. Professor Ishmael Palin, one of the galaxy's foremost experts on the Thargoids, has even gone so far as to denounce Anslow as a glory hound. Thargoids have been known to make staccato clicking noises with their mouthparts when in the presence of humans, punctuated with occasional hisses and buzzes. They've also been observed directing such noises at one another, albeit much less frequently. Professor Albert Tesreau, a founding member of the Joint Superpower Initiative, AEGIS, and a specialist in interspecies communication, has studied INRA audio logs and suggested that the sounds probably represent some kind of language due to the repetition of certain sound combinations. It is unclear why the Thargoids would sometimes choose to communicate with each other vocally, given their capacity for extrasensory communication. Professor Anslow suggested that the sounds could be designed to intimidate enemies or opponents, noting that Thargoids often produce them prior to combat. Thargoid ships have been observed emitting a complex array of sounds, and in some cases subtly changing color. The exact meaning of these behaviors has not been determined, but they appear to correspond to different emotional states. What is not known is if these sounds are produced by the pilot and amplified by the ship, or emitted by the ship itself. If the sounds originate with the pilot, it would suggest some kind of physiological connection between pilot and vessel. Given the sophistication of Thargoid bioengineering, however, it is possible that the sounds come from the ship itself, and that Thargoid ships are able to feel and communicate to a limited degree. The hulls of Thargoid ships are typically emblazoned with one of several symbols, the meaning of which is unknown. Some have theorized that they could denote membership of a particular familial group, or possibly be an indicator of rank. The Thargoids. Physiology. Human understanding of Thargoid physiology is far from complete, but recovered INRA data has offered some insights into their nature. INRA records describe the average Thargoid as physically larger than a human being, and generally insectoid in appearance. Thargoid biology is carbon-based, using an RNA-like encoding for biological information, but Thargoid chemistry is based on ammonia rather than water. Consequently, while Thargoids can comfortably tolerate environments as cold as -80 degrees Celsius, they cannot withstand environments warmer than 45 degrees Celsius for long. According to notes compiled by Dr. Peregrine Hennig, an INRA researcher, Thargoids can survive for a significant time in the vacuum of space without apparent discomfort, and can tolerate radiation and extreme cold for far longer than a human.
Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage.
The Thargoids. Vulnerable.
3, 2.
Abilities. In 3250, the INRA developed a biological weapon known as the mycoid virus for use against the Thargoids. The virus was the result of an accidental discovery made by a researcher who noted that a particular strain of fungus was found to thrive on the hulls of Thargoid
Fuel
vessels
scooping.
and appeared to be digesting the material of which the ship was made. The INRA refined the fungal strain and began experimenting on living Thargoids in their spacecraft. The
Fuel scooping complete.
mycoid proved to have deleterious effects on both, leading to the swift elimination of the Thargoids active in human-occupied space at the time. It is widely assumed that since the last human-Thargoid conflict, the Thargoids have developed an immunity to the mycoid virus.
System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging.
The Thargoids, starships. In terms of structure and function, Thargoid vessels are radically different from anything produced by humanity, and are able to navigate hyperspace in ways that are not fully understood. They are also at least partly organic, meaning that they can self-repair or heal over time. Ship function in general, and this restorative ability in particular, have been shown to be dependent upon the so-called
Fuel scooping complete.
Thargoid heart, a biomechanical organ found in varying quantities in different Thargoid ships. These hearts often survive the destruction of the ship, enabling them to be salvaged, although they can also be targeted and damaged with appropriate weaponry. They are highly corrosive, however, and require special containers for safe transport. Thargoid vessels that have sustained combat damage exhibit scar-like patterns. Given that Thargoid technology is sophisticated enough for such damage to be repaired, it follows that the Thargoids might deliberately choose to preserve these scars. INRA logs document an encounter with a Thargoid mothership many times larger than other Thargoid craft, against which the Microin virus was successfully deployed, although no such vessels have been reported in recent times.
System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage.
The Thargoids. Structures. Dozens of planets in human-occupied space are peppered with Thargoid barnacles, biological resource extractors that convert minerals into meta-alloys, a key component to the creation of Thargoid vehicles and technology. Theories that these barnacles are genetically engineered by the Thargoids have yet to be verified. Larger structures, referred to as Thargoid surface sites, have also been discovered. These sites typically consist
Fuel scooping.
of a spiral-shaped structure, nestling within a shallow crater, beneath which lies a series of tunnels. At the heart of this subsurface network is a device
Fuel scooping complete.
that, once activated, emits a holographic star map. The sites are controlled by semi-sentient biomechanical entities called scavengers. The Thargoids. War with the Guardians. Archaeological records have revealed that the extinct, non-human civilization known as the Guardians experienced conflict with the Thargoids many thousands of years ago. Logs recovered from Guardian sites indicate that the Thargoids were the aggressor in this conflict, having seeded Guardian space with biomechanical constructs used for resource
System scan complete.
extraction. Long before the emergence of the Guardian civilization, the Thargoids apparently believed they were entitled to uncontested dominion of the territory. The Guardians attempted to communicate with the Thargoids and reach a compromise, but without success. Over the course of the conflict, the Guardians developed new technologies to give them an advantage against the Thargoids. These technologies were apparently successful, forcing the Thargoids to abandon their offensive.
Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage.
The Thargoids. Agenda. Thargoid
Frameshift drive charging.
do not attack indiscriminately, and their choice of target shows them to be highly intelligent. They have also conducted targeted strikes on Aegis facilities and attacked pilots carrying Thargoid items in their cargo holds,
Ready to engage.
indicating that they know they are being studied and want to halt the process. But despite their evident intelligence, they appear to be completely uninterested in meaningful communication. The engineer Ramtar, who has extensively researched the Guardians and their war with the Thargoids, holds the view that Thargoid aggression is a product of territorialism. They seed an area with barnacles, thus laying claim to it, and return, sometimes many centuries later, to harvest the extracted resources. Any life form advanced enough to compete with them for the territory is treated as an enemy and summarily attacked. Professor Palin concurs with this view, adding that the Thargoids are apparently so determined to eliminate their long-term survival, they will not tolerate any advanced species in close proximity.
Fuel scoping. Fuel scooping complete.
The Alliance. Introduction. Rise, like lions after slumber, in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth, like dew which in sleep had fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few. Percy Bysshe Shelley, The Mask of Anarchy, 1819.
I've read your speech a dozen times, Mick. We can't use it. Sure, we could sound off about self-rule and freedom from tyranny and the dignity of the working man/woman, and the young hotheads would lap it up like they always do. I'm not saying we don't need that stuff, but we mustn't forget it's just marketing. A shiny wrapper. It's not enough. If we're going to make the Alliance of Independent Systems happen, we need more than tub-thumping speeches from a war hero. We need to show our people that the damn thing can work. I want spending plans, dividend forecasts, surveyors' reports. I want data so dry you don't need to believe in it. The people are tired and heartsick. They've been sold dreams too many times
System scan complete.
by both sides, so let's not try to sell them anymore. It's time to wake up.
Private communique from Meredith Argent to Mick Turner, founders of the Alliance. The Alliance is the youngest of the galaxy's 3 superpowers and is perhaps best.
Frameshift drive charging.
best understood in terms of what it chooses not to be. It rejects both the extreme capitalism of the Federation and the rigid hierarchy of the Empire, choosing instead a third way, a voluntary association for mutual benefit. The desire for freedom from interference, both from external threats and internal bureaucracy, was the key motivation behind the Alliance's founding and is enshrined in its Articles of Association. The governments of the member systems are given as much autonomy
System scan complete. Field
to create their
scoping.
own laws and administer their own affairs as possible. The right to political self-determination and cultural self-expression are essential to the Alliance, but it remains to be seen
Field sync disengaged.
whether the ultimate
Frameshift drive charging.
result will be stable harmony or a cacophony of dissenting voices. Every Alliance member knows that alliances have been made before, many times over, only to collapse.
3, 2, fuel scooping. System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage. System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging.
The Alliance. History. Alioth was colonized. The crucible in which the Alliance was forged was Alioth, a system so rich in gas and mineral resources that early surveyors considered it a stellar object. When the Federation established its first colony on Alioth 5b in 2452, they gave the planet the less grandiose name of Fruitcake, as mineral deposits lay in the lonely soils as abundantly as raisins in cake. Later, commentators would reflect, bitterly, that the world was well named because everyone wanted a piece. A conflict over mining rights drew in the superpowers. Alioth's prosperity soon attracted corporations eager to support the developing system in exchange for a share of the profits. A dispute over rights quickly escalated into an armed conflict, prompting the Empire to dispatch a military force, ostensibly for the colonists' protection. The Federation also sent ships, but theirs were a response to the corporation's plea for aid. Unable to directly engage the Federal ships without sparking a war, the Empire covertly encouraged the Alioth colonists to renounce the Federation and accept Imperial protection, thus freeing the Empire to engage with the occupying Federal forces in sympathy with the will of the people. This marked the first of many incidents in which the people of Alioth were used to advance the agenda of another power. Federation-sponsored insurrection. In 2530, the Federation set out to undermine Imperial control of Alioth by exploiting local resentment of the governor. They covertly supported acts of protest and petty vandalism. Then, when the inevitable Imperial crackdown followed, stoked the fires of social unrest. A terrorist movement called the Quakers emerged, and the atrocities escalated. The years that followed saw a protracted and degrading series of proxy wars and cynical propaganda campaigns as the Federal, Imperial, and corporate powers all contended for Alioth. The system made an abortive attempt to establish its independence in 2617, resulting in a short-lived cooperation between the Empire and the Federation, neither of which were willing to allow this. The Revolution. In the early 4th millennium, both the Federation and the Empire had a presence in the Alioth system. Fruitcake, now known as Gordon World, was a federal
System scan complete.
protectorate, while the Empire had earlier conducted
Frameshift drive charging.
terraforming experiments on the world of New California and also held gas mining platforms in the system. The federal corporations supplying New California had raised the prices of their goods
Ready to engage.
4 times in the previous years, and when they imposed yet another price hike, the planet's inhabitants
Frameshift drive charging.
revolted. In the insurrection that followed, rebels commandeered any available ships and headed out to the gas mining platforms, where they attacked the outpost's corporate employees.
Ready to engage. 3, 2,
Alarmed, the Empire and the Federation dispatched ships to put down the rebellion, but were beaten back by a hastily assembled force made up of fighters from Alioth and, crucially, volunteers from nearby independent systems. Neither the Empire nor the Federation were able to gain a foothold, and eventually, both forces had to withdraw.
fuel scoping.
The Empire faced too many logistical problems.
Fuel scoping complete.
Was fighting so far from home, while the Federation's efforts were undermined by public sympathy for the rebels. An alliance was brokered. The victory in Alioth had proven that independent systems working together could hold their own against the superpowers. It fell to pilot Mick Turner and scientist Meredith Argent to ride the wave of public spirit and propose a permanent alliance, under whose aegis independent systems could enjoy freedom from imperial and federal interference. The alliance was founded in 3230, and in the next 2 decades, it expanded its membership to more than 20 systems, some defecting from the Federation and the Empire, others pledging as independents.
System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Module repaired. Cannot comply. Frameshift drive charging. Frameshift drive charging. 4, 3, 2, 1. Engage. Warning. Temperature critical. Fuel scoping. Fuel scoop disengaged. System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging.
Society. Many worlds, few rules, no overlords. The Alliance's Articles of Membership are designed to unite the member systems with strong, straightforward bonds that allow as much self-determination as possible. Membership guarantees mutual prosperity. prosperity through guaranteed free trade and security through the Alliance Defense Force, while leaving much of the business of government to the individual members. The Alliance Assembly acts as a central arbitration committee,
Fuel scooping complete.
helping to settle disputes between member systems. It also oversees formal arrangements between members, such as treaties, research goals, and mutually agreed policies. As no one system can be allowed to carry more weight than another, the Assembly frequently finds itself bogged down in endless back and forth negotiations. Getting them to agree on anything is a task often
System scan complete.
compared to herding Linglangs, notoriously ill-tempered carnivores from the Akanar system. A body of civil servants who remain uninvolved in politics handle most of the day-to-day administrative work that
Frameshift drive charging.
enables the Alliance to function. Conditional autonomy for member systems. Alliance members are required to subscribe to and uphold a code of human rights. And to have a democratically elected government. Citizens of any member state have a right of freedom of movement and residence within any other member state. Furthermore, all member systems are obliged to give immediate military assistance to any fellow member when necessary.
scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage.
The Alliance. Military.
4, 3, 2.
The Alliance Defense Force. While each Alliance member system maintains its own navy, all members are required to commit ships and crew to the Alliance Defense Force. This rapid response group remains within Alliance space, and its tasks vary from providing a beleaguered system with military
Fuel scoping.
assistance to evacuating settlements hit by natural disaster. A 6-member Council of Admirals oversees the Alliance Defense Force. It is accountable to the Assembly, but does not require its approval before taking action. This freedom of decision-making
Fuel scoping complete.
prevents urgent military action being delayed by tedious debate.
System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage.
Culture and values. Cooperation, mutual aid, tolerance, and respect. The values that bind the Alliance systems also hold true on an interpersonal level. Just as the different worlds of the Alliance formally recognize one another's legitimacy
Fuel scoping.
and value, individuals are generally reluctant to show prejudice against others and will band together to help those in genuine need. Diversity
Fuel scoping complete.
is strength. Members of the Alliance are not obliged to conform to what they consider the corporate saturation of federal culture or the status-obsessed posturing of the Imperials. Individual systems are encouraged to preserve and celebrate their own cultural identities. This approach results in a rich variety of artistic, literary, and dramatic output. Free to speak, free to protest. One curious cultural constant across the Alliance member systems is the way the citizens indulge their freedom to complain. They can criticize their governments without fear of repression, and they frequently do so.
System scan complete.
Previous experience of exploitation has left many citizens cynical, but possessed of a certain mordant humor and a willingness to take life as it comes. The Alliance. Diplomatic relations.
Frameshift drive charging.
The Federation. Alliance attitudes to the Federation vary sharply, depending on whether one is asking about the Federation's government or its citizenry. The government is seen as a hidebound relic.
Ready to engage. 3, 2.
unable to arrest its slow decline into decadence. But the general populace are much more compassionately viewed. An Alliance citizen, proud of his or her own emancipation, is likely to have the condescending view of a federal citizen. They are characterized as ignorant dupes, kept satiated by mass-market entertainment and branded consumer goods. This is not seen as their fault, however. On the contrary, it is widely held that the Federation and the corporate barons deliberately keep the people in this servile state. The Alliance is more interested in enticing federal systems to join its union, thereby winning the moral war, than in exacting vengeance for the wrongs of the past. There has been too much violence already. The Empire. To the Alliance, the Empire is anathema. With its monolithic culture, veneration of opulence, disdain for human rights and tolerance of slavery, it could not be further from the Alliance's values of mutual respect and freedom from exploitation. Yet, for all this, many Alliance members would rather deal with the Empire than the Federation. The common belief
System scan complete.
is that the Federation will always pretend to be something it is not.
Frameshift drive charging.
At least with the Empire, you know what you're dealing with. Most Alliance citizens view the emergence of a progressive movement within the Empire with cynicism. Everyone knows that the Empire is incapable of changing its ways. The whole Imperial social model is an imitation of the past. But some in the Alliance nevertheless welcome the ascension of the first female Emperor. The edifice may not be about to crumble, but such profound change cannot be ignored.
System scan complete. Frameshift drive charging.